Hi, welcome to Mindful Conversations. My name is Greg Dwyer. My guest today is Mark L. Dressler. He is a best-selling author. He's also a speaker. Mark, thanks for being on the broadcast tonight.
Greg, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you became a writer, what, 5, 10 years ago? How many years?
I became an author 5 years ago.
Oh.
And that's 4 years into retirement.
Okay.
I retired in 2011. Mm-hmm. And from both the corporate background as well as business background, about 25 years all total.
Wow.
So the writing came out of the blue. It really did.
So you were inspired?
I was inspired, and it's kind of a weird thing. I have 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. My younger daughter had a house in Talland. The house was set way back from the road, dirt driveway, tree lined. You wouldn't know anybody lived there. Mm-hmm. And I'd invariably go up there and point out the back, and I'd say, you know, you could find a dead body out there and no one would know it.
You said that?
I did. I used to say that. So it's crazy. One night I came home, I sat at the computer, and I started writing fictionally a little bit about that.
Sure.
I didn't know what I was doing. And I can't say I was a writer or an author then. I had about 5 pages, 1,000 words, whatever. Mm-hmm. I left it.
Right.
Came back to it a little bit later, and I started writing. And have you talked to other authors before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
and they go through this transformation of identity.
It's amazing because what I found in writing fiction, you start creating characters.
And they speak to you.
They speak to you.
Yes.
Not only do they speak to you, they speak to the other characters.
Right.
They start taking you places that you don't even know you're going.
Right. And
pretty soon, you're off on a journey, and you're the director, and you're an actor, too, because you're part of every character. Right. It's a fascinating journey.
Now, that's interesting that you said that you, as the writer, are connected to all of the characters. Talk a little bit about that. I find that interesting. How so?
Well, I think a part of you goes into each character.
Okay.
When you're talking dialogue, I think part of the way you speak.
Right.
But you also have to keep in mind where the characters are and how you're portraying them. But a lot of there's some humor that comes out, which is me, and my friends recognize, hey, I know that's you. Yeah. So it really is a fascinating journey.
And I've seen plays, and I've read books where they talk about this, you know, even in movies, where they depict this scenario that there are certain things that have happened in your life, and you redirect them, and you change characters, and it's amazing how that works. It seems to be a theme with all authors.
Well, there's a lot of my life in here because I'm from Hartford originally. Okay.
All right.
And so my books, both stories, take place in Hartford. And it's interesting because they take place in 2014 and 2015. Okay. But I go back to my childhood, downtown Hartford, going to G. Fox. Right. And down and back at G. Fox, Morgan Street, there was a Morgan Street jail, which people ask me if I was ever in there, and I say no. But even though my stories take place in 2014 to 15, I couldn't start Dead and Gone without it being at the Morgan Street jail, even though it didn't exist then. By the end of the book, it's gone. Right. Now, my character, Dan Shields, and people ask me where I get the names, and for me, they just come.
So that name just came to you out of the blue one day?
It just came to me out of the blue.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sounds like a good name for a detective.
Right, right.
And Dan's a family man. He's got 3 children, lives in Suffield fictitiously, a nice wife named Phyllis, who's a child psychologist. But when Dan's on the job, he's the detective that breaks all the rules.
Oh, really? Really?
And a lot of people who've read the books liken him to, have you ever heard of Harry Bosch?
Tell me more.
Okay, Michael Connelly is the #1 mystery writer.
Oh, okay.
And his detective is Harry Bosch.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So when people compare Harry Bosch to Dan, or vice versa, it's an ultimate compliment for me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, when you did the marketing here, I see that there's a connection between the red, the white, and darker colors like black. Did you have someone help you with that, or did you come up with that creatively yourself, or how did you do it?
That's part of the journey.
Okay.
You know, part of the journey is you write and then you edit.
Yes.
But the other part of the journey is finding a good cover designer.
Yes.
I happened to find one, and I vetted through the websites. My cover artist, her name is Janine Henning.
Okay.
And she's fabulous.
Wow, she did a great job.
I gave her what I thought I might like on the covers. She ran with it. And interesting thing about her, I knew she wasn't from here. I thought she might have been like in London.
Right.
Turns out she's in Cape Town, South Africa.
So how did you find her?
I went through a lot of websites, okay?
All right.
And I got some suggestions from other people. But what I saw from her, I liked. And she also had a questionnaire. She really wanted to know about the story. So that gave her a little bit of insight into what I really was looking for.
So she took an interest in your story. Did she actually read the manuscript?
As far as I know, she hasn't,
Okay.
but I did send her copies of the books.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
She might.
Okay.
She might have.
That's great. And so how do you get these books out? Are you doing book signings at bookstores, or is it just word of mouth? Because I know you've moved a lot of books. You've marketed a lot of these. You're the best-selling author. So how do you do that?
Well, I have a great connection in downtown Hartford.
Okay.
Barnes & Noble, downtown Hartford, the Yukon store, they sell a ton of my books.
That's
so I am a
great.
best-selling author in that store.
That is wonderful. How did that happen? How did you make it happen? Just because of the connections that you have there? Or?
I walked in there one day, it's kind of funny, and I talked to the store manager. And it so happens, we mentioned names,
Right.
okay, her
Sure.
stepfather's from Hartford.
Right, right.
Graduated high school with my brother.
Oh, made a connection.
Made a connection.
That's great. Yeah.
And Lori Bompard is her name,
Okay.
and she's been fabulous for me. But I've also recently sold out Barnes & Noble in West Hartford, Buckland.
Oh, very nice.
Not Buckland, Blueback Square. Okay, and one manager said that I'm the only author that's ever sold out there. And the other manager said she thinks someone else did before me.
So what's the secret? How did you do it?
I have hit a nerve or a niche, let's say.
Okay.
The books take place in Hartford, and I market it as Hartford Mysteries.
I see.
And it really has caught a niche, and people, it's amazing. I was in Costco a few weeks ago, and are you Mark Dressler?
Really?
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
I do a lot of events. I did Eastern States this past year with an organization called Connecticut Authors and Publishers.
Oh, very good.
And I sold 110 books there.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
But I do a lot of, I do the libraries, I do the bookstores.
Right, right.
And I do a lot of craft fairs, and I'll be doing the Travelers 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I'll be doing the AquaTurf at the end of this month.
Oh, nice.
So.
And let me ask you this. These books that you sell, did you publish it yourself? Did you go through a publisher? How did that all work?
Well, I have a small publisher, okay? It's called Staten Crest Press. But ultimately, the vehicle is Amazon.
It is Amazon.
It does go through Amazon.
Okay.
It gets uploaded through Amazon.
Okay.
And is out there on Amazon. And the books are 5-star rated.
That's great. And it's print on demand, or they have...
It is print on demand.
It is print on, okay, that's great.
It is print on demand.
5-star reviews, that's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
you go on Amazon and you see that people buy based on those reviews. That's really what it comes down to. So that's wonderful. Well, the average author, what do they say, sells 200 books in their whole life? I mean, they don't sell as many as you have, right? But you've done really well.
I haven't heard that, but I'll take that as a real compliment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most people, they'll do some self-editing, or they'll do it through a publishing company, and then, they'll sell it to their friends and families, and 2 years later, 3 years later, they'd be lucky to move 200 books, in their whole life.
Well, you hit a word, self-editing.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the writing process.
Yeah, please.
Because when I started writing, I quickly found out that I didn't know how to write.
Okay.
Okay. So I belong to organizations like Mystery Writers of America,
Okay.
Kappa I mentioned, Sisters in Crime, meet a lot of authors, and a lot of self-published authors, and editors, okay? So, palling around with these people, I learned a little bit about writing. There's rules. And, nobody writes a book by themselves, is what I found out.
See, this is what's interesting, and the name of the show is called Mindful Conversations, and anybody that wants to write a book or anybody that is thinking about writing a book, this is great information. It's this network that you have found. You can't do this by yourself. You need other people to help you, is what I hear you saying.
Yes, and you can find writing groups as well.
Okay.
They're very helpful.
And so people helped you and connected the dots and showed you the way as a guide or a mentor, if you will. Yeah.
I mean, there's things about writing that in school, you could have been an A student, but there are punctuation marks you've never heard of. I've never heard of an ellipses, an M dash, an N dash. What are those things?
I have no idea what you're talking about,
Correct. You're not going to find them on your keyboard.
Right. So what are these things? Secret things? What are, give me one of them.
Well, actually, if you look, I went to the Mark Twain house, and he has that old printing press that he lost a lot of money on.
Yeah.
And if you look on that, there is a punctuation mark on there called an M dash.
Really?
Which is twice as large as an N dash.
Okay.
It's just a dash.
Okay. That's all it is.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Okay, so who are the people that helped you as far as, like, you have an editor, you have somebody that's doing copywriting, who are the people that you teamed with to get this work out?
There are editors, and I'm looking at the names right now because I had one group of editors for the first book. I have a second group of editors for the second book.
I see.
And I've got a third book that's ready for editing now, and I will have a third group of editors. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm unhappy with the editing or the editors.
So why would you switch off and change?
Part of it's timing. Part of it is some of the editors, a lot of them are authors themselves. And a lot of them do editing on the side. So they have other jobs, So a lot of it can be timing, where they can fit you in. And, and it's not just one round of editing, it's time consuming.
Yeah, I know somebody wrote a book and really writing the book was simple. It was the editing process that was long and tedious. And you're going over, and expensive too. Did you find it very expensive as far as editing or no?
I think that's a relative term.
Okay. All right. You didn't mortgage your house, did you?
No, no. It's a relative term. Finding a book cover designer. I found people that were charged up to $4 grand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just for a design, right?
Just for design.
Just for a design.
If you want me to talk money, I will. My cover designer charged $265.
That's great.
And she's fabulous. So you can find them for $99. You can find them for all the way. So you've got to do a little bit of homework and find somebody you're comfortable with. And that applies to editors too. Find somebody that you're comfortable with.
Well, I would also think word of mouth. Who do you know and who do they know? Because you don't know what you're getting into. What do you think about Fiverr, and what do you think about all these online courses that people can take? Do you think they're helpful, or just online people that do this type of thing from Fiji or from Africa or from New Jersey? Have you experienced anything there with that or no?
I haven't. I'm not a great online person.
Oh, okay. All right. So you relationships, you meet people, you network. Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So what's the next book? Can you give us a little hint of what you're writing?
I can.
Okay.
I'll tell you a couple of things too about.
Sure.
Dead Right came about because people who read Dead and Gone were asking, when is the next Dan Shields book coming out?
Wow, that's a compliment. That's great.
So I got busy writing one. The secret is I had another one in the works, okay? And that's the one that's coming next.
All right.
Okay. It doesn't feature Dan Shields. It doesn't feature Hartford.
Oh, really?
It's a female detective. Her name is Alexis. Call her Lex. She's the only female detective in Manhattan.
Now, are you taking a big risk by not following the same thinking? I mean, it's not in Hartford. I mean, it's a different character. Why are you taking a risk?
That's actually the first book that I wrote.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it was whether I wanted to do that one
I see.
or Dan.
I see.
I chose Dan because of Hartford.
Right, sure.
But as much as I love Dan, I love Lex.
Okay.
And people are going to love Lex. Is it a risk? It probably is. The good thing for me is that I don't want to call this a hobby.
Okay.
But it's not a career. If I was 40 years old, 30 years old, this would be a career. And I know from what I hear and what I read, if I was with a publisher, they would definitely, you've got to write another Dan Shields book.
Right, that's what they would tell you.
That's what they would tell you.
Right. Well, how many authors are full-time authors? They can, you know, unless you're writing Harry Potter or you're writing something that's really popular, I mean, it's not easy, right? To do it, to make money, to pay your bills, right? Or what? What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you at this point, a lot of the authors that I know are like me. Okay, they're not 40 or 50.
Okay.
They're a little bit older. The goal is not necessarily making a lot of money.
Okay.
Breaking even is a goal.
Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
I don't want to call it an ego thing.
Okay.
But it's a thing where it's an accomplishment.
It is
a goal.
Yeah.
And to be where I am now, I never thought I'd ever be anywhere near I am.
How long does it take to write a book? Is it a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 5 years?
Dead and Gone was 3 years start to finish.
Wow. Wow. That's a long time.
Dead Right was a year.
Okay. All right.
And
this new one, you've written it already, so now it's in the process of being edited and doing a cover?
Well, let's get back to writing for a minute.
Okay.
When I say writing, you finish a manuscript.
Right.
And it's a rough draft.
Right.
Okay. And you rewrite it.
Excellent.
And you rewrite it.
Oh, wow. It's a long process.
And as a matter of fact, when I get done writing a manuscript, first 2 or 3 times through too, my wife is my biggest critic, my biggest first reader, and I'll get back pages with red marks all over the pages.
Like a school teacher?
Like a school teacher. It's like I'm passing a test.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'll re-edit. I'll go do it again.
Right.
Give it back to her. Same pages will come back, more red marks.
Wow.
So she's really good. But from what I understand, the average number of rewrites and self-edits is somewhere between 6 and 10.
Okay. For the whole book?
For the whole book.
Okay.
Before it's ready for the real editor.
Oh, and then it goes through an editing process.
Yeah, it goes through an editing process.
Talk about the character or the mindset or the attitude of just patience. Seems like this is not something that happens overnight. You have to have a certain mindset to get this done, start to finish.
You have to figure out what your goal is.
Okay.
Okay, because I didn't know I wanted to have a book published. I really didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
But when I got it done, and like I said, I joined these other groups, yeah, I wanted to go forward.
Wow.
And I did pursue traditional publishing at first, okay? And that's where you try to find an agent, and their job is to sell it to one of the big 5 publishers.
Right.
And that can take a long time
Yep.
if you're lucky enough to find an agent.
Sure.
So the other route is the self-published route.
Right.
And but either way, you've got to do your due diligence. You have to go through the editing processes. It does take time. You can't get discouraged, and you just have to bear with it. And all of a sudden, it's there.
Do you think everybody has a book within them that, you know, given the chance they could do something fiction or nonfiction? You think everyone's an author, or what do you think about that?
I've been asked that. Okay.
Have you?
Yeah, wherever I go, a lot of people ask. They say, I could never write a book. And I said, that was me 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's a great story.
I do think there's stuff up here in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's experiences in life.
Right.
You can even get ideas from, you watch TV shows, you go to movies.
You read
go
books.
to a restaurant, you find a character in a restaurant.
Meet people, yeah.
You meet people.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters in restaurants.
Yeah, so I do think there is something up there. It's a matter of having the nerve to go out there and start typing
Yes.
Okay.
Putting yourself out there.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Start typing. Okay.
And saying, I'm an author. I'm a best-selling author, right?
Well, that's a goal, but the chore, the task is to just start writing and see where it takes you.
Right, exactly. Would you ever hire a ghostwriter? Is that a fair question?
I would not.
You wouldn't? Okay.
I would not.
Okay. What do you think about people that want to get a book out? They hire somebody for $5 or $10 grand, just write my book.
Bill O'Reilly?
I don't know. A lot of these
I
guys, they don't write their books, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I'm sure, you know, I don't want to mention names, but, you know, I can think of a lot of people that they hire an agency or they have somebody do the work for them.
Yeah. And I apologize to Bill O'Reilly. I don't know if you ghostwrite or not.
Okay.
I just,
Yeah.
so.
But a lot of books out there that are in Barnes & Noble, you know, the people never wrote the books at all. You know, I mean, it's a franchise. There's a couple speakers I know that they didn't touch it. You know, they had other people do it and put it together. And so it's a product, you know. Now, here's a fact for you. Here's a fun fact. I just read the other day that in America, we produce about 30,000 books every single year in America. It would take you 17 years, 24 hours a day to read those books. You couldn't get through them. It's impossible. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
My books are fast-paced.
Nice.
Easy reading.
Nice. And they draw you in, I bet.
They draw you in. Well, the real job of a mystery writer is, I heard somebody mention Penn and Teller before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's sort of like being Penn and Teller.
In what way?
You're sort of a magician. My job is to draw you in, lead you down a path, and then kind of pull the rug out.
Wow, I love that. So you're comparing an author with a magician.
No, I'm comparing a mystery author.
A mystery author.
A mystery author.
Yeah.
Good mystery author.
I love that. Yes, yeah, so you draw. So I was reading yesterday that if you're going to write a book, because it's in the back of my mind, that you do have to draw people in, and you can do it one of two ways. Number one, you know, this is mostly fiction or nonfiction. Yeah, it's more like a nonfiction book. You're really focusing on either your story and hopefully connecting with an audience, or you're talking about the reader's story. And the key is just, whether it's the title or the first part of the book, is just to draw them in so they want to read the book.
It is.
Yeah.
I was at a conference in Stanford. It was a Mystery Writers of America conference.
Okay.
And there's a fabulous speaker named Jane Cleland. She's an author.
Oh, okay.
Fabulous. And as she was speaking, and she was talking about how to enrich the sentences and how to make things flower and draw suspense. And as she was speaking, I sat there and actually wrote down the opening line to Dead and Gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the opening line, it's like any header. And you got a theme here, dead and gone and dead right. So are you going to tell me the theme of the next one, or no? Are you going to hide it?
Well,
back?
The next one is the Alexis Stahl. It's called Dying for Fame.
Okay, so there's this death, dying theme there.
Kind of.
Yeah. Dark. I guess it all started when you were out in the woods saying there could be a dead body here, you know?
Well, the thing now is that my wife sleeps with one eye open.
Does she?
So that's a big change in our lives, yeah.
So, Mark, how do people get a hold of you if they want to bring you in to have you speak, or maybe a book signing, or they just want to ask you some questions? There might be a lot of people out here that want to write a book, and you could be inspiration for them. So how do they find you out there on social media or the internet?
I do have do you mind if I just read a little bit?
Yeah, we have exactly 1 minute.
I have a Facebook page, okay, and it's www.facebook.com/Mark L. Dressler, or my email, mark.dressler17@gmail.com. If I can mention one thing.
Sure.
I'm very proud to say that I donate partial proceeds from my books to the Boston Children's Hospital.
That's wonderful.
And they honored me this past July for my generosity.
Wow. Yeah, it's good that you give back to the community. And it's also nice that you have all of this career background, and in addition to that, in your retirement, you're not just sitting on a beach somewhere, you're actually doing something and making a difference. So, Mark, thank you so much for being on the broadcast.
This has been great.
Yeah,
thank you, Greg.
Wonderful. Well, we'll see you next time. We hope we gave you something to think about. If you know someone that would like to tell their story here, just reach out to me on Facebook or the internet, gregdwyer.com. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
All right.